Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. So, time to see what's making the headlines then, with the Times' chief political correspondent, Aubrey Allegretti, and the former Conservative Special Advisor, Salma Shah. Welcome and lovely to see both of you. So let's take a look at the front pages then, shall we? Starting with The Guardian. It features more allegations against Prince Andrew as Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir is released, including claims that he hired internet trolls to target his accuser. The Daily Mail leads with questions over how Prince Andrew can afford to stay at Royal Lodge amid claims he received little inheritance from his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth. The Times reports that Prince Andrew has not paid rent on Royal Lodge since 2003 under the terms of a peppercorn rent agreement, a reminder that Prince Andrew denies allegations of wrongdoing. The Daily Telegraph leads with claims that the government has tried to sabotage an inquiry into grooming gangs to try to avoid embarrassing revelations ahead of the next general election. The Metro is covering Amazon's global internet glitch affecting banks, government services and social media, calling it the worldwide wobble. The Express reports on a group of 7 female NHS nurses who are bringing a legal case over single-sex changing facilities. The Star reports on the death of 21-year-old Harley Pearce, the son of former England football player Stuart Pearce, who was tragically killed in a tractor accident. And the front page of The Eye focuses on a groundbreaking, tiny electronic eye implant, which is helping blind patients to see again. So let's hear more then, shall we, from Aubrey and from Salma. Lovely to see both of you. Kick off with The Times, Aubrey, why don't you? So many more revelations, it has to be said, about Andrew ahead of the release of this posthumous book by Virginia Giuffre, who is the one who has accused him, his denial of the charges we know, of course.
Certainly. So there have been questions swirling for a number of months about how Prince Andrew has managed to afford living still the life of luxury, it would seem, in a 30-room property, which is known as Royal Lodge. It was previously occupied by the Queen Mother up until her death in 2002. That was the point at which Andrew moved in. And he's obviously been cut off by the royal family. He's had some sort of financial perks withdrawn over the last few years. And my colleagues at the Times have been digging into how he's managed to afford continuing to live in Royal Lodge. It's now emerged that he hasn't paid any rent, despite having lived there for 2 decades. That's because of a lease that he signed back in 2003. And that meant that he basically faced upfront costs of about £7.5 million for refurbishments at the time, and a further £1 million just for the sort of lease. But if you take that over the whole nearly 75-year period that it's going to cover, that equates to about £113,000 a year, which I'm sure people will agree is very cheap for what it could be.
Interesting, and the Times picking up on the same story. Let's just take a look at their front cover as well. While we're on it, just how can Andrew afford Royal Lodge? As the Mail reveals, the disgraced prince did not receive a significant inheritance from the late Queen, or indeed the Queen Mother. Contrary to popular belief, they say the former Duke of York is not thought to have received major financial bequests from his mother or his grandmother. What this shows is that the hyper-focus of the papers is on him. And at the moment, it is relentless.
Yeah, it's relentless. And as we go through the papers, we'll see lots of different angles that are covering this. But I think what it sort of boils down to is, I mean, as Aubrey's rightly detailed, it feels as if something has gone badly wrong with a member of the royal family who is in public life. He strenuously denies the allegations against him, but there is still a huge question of judgment around it. And despite that, the lavishness and the luxury of the life doesn't seem to have dissipated for Prince Andrew. And I think when people are facing, cost of living crisis, when there's real sort of difficulty out there, the monarch is going to have to perhaps go further and show greater leadership, more than he already has, and perhaps strip Prince Andrew of his given titles, which will include the Duke of York. But fundamentally, there is very serious questions that need to be answered around well, where did this money come from in order to purchase the lease in the first place? Where did this £1 million come from in order to buy the lease for this property for 75 years? So there's a lot of questions that still remain, and clearly the newspapers aren't going to stop digging.
Yes, if you start to persist that where did the money come from questions, you're back to who funds the royal family, aren't you, really, fundamentally, which shows how this rocks the institution. Before we come on to more allegations, what is the point, what is the intention, do you think, of all the coverage now? What do people want to see?
Well, certainly there's not been transparency over the finances, so there is a big sort of economic question about how Prince Andrew's been able to afford to continue to live this lavish luxury lifestyle. But more broadly than that, I think there is a concern that there are yet more allegations set to emerge. We'll talk about them briefly. They're outlined, of course, in Virginia Giuffre's posthumous autobiography, the memoir that was published, and she makes some claims in that. But I think we're starting to see the members of the royal family, King Charles, Prince William, start to try and sort of choke off Prince Andrew and avoid being tainted by this scandal, which keeps getting bigger and bigger. They've tried to do everything by sort of cutting him off in terms of the ties, taking away his titles, the King even taking away his £1 million per year personal allowance. But still, Prince Andrew persists. He says he's done nothing wrong, and yet he is sort of tainting the King and the future King, Prince William, by association. Yes,
and it is understood he's wanted him to leave Royal Lodge for some time as well, hasn't he? The King, at the synagogue, the site of the synagogue attack in Manchester today, trying to focus on the work he is doing, you know, off to the Vatican as well. Is it possible for the royal family to focus on really important visits like this while all this furore is underway?
Well, ultimately, no, because the coverage that you then get is, instead of being focused on the King's visit, highlighting issues, highlighting, you know, the situation representing the nation, you know, at a time of grief when it comes to the synagogue attacks, or in terms of diplomacy whilst going to the Vatican, all of that becomes irrelevant, because whilst you have the photo, and we'll go to it at the front of The Guardian, we have these pictures that have come through, but they are next to headlines, you know, pretty salacious headlines and claims about members of the royal family. And that is what the association is going to be, as opposed to the work. So perhaps, actually, the institution hasn't gone far enough in dealing with Prince Andrew.
So, to the allegations then, in The Guardian, Aubrey, Prince tried to hire trolls to target Giuffre. This presumably is the sort of allegations that we're going to see over coming days as people digest her memoir.
Certainly. I mean, there seem to be some explosive revelations, and maybe they're better sort of called claims, since for now we don't know if they're completely correct. But she's talked about the 2022 confidential settlement of her sexual abuse civil claim against Prince Andrew, which obviously he settled, but said he accepted no liability for any wrongdoing as part of that. It was rumoured to be worth about $12 million, so a significant amount for the Prince to settle, considering that he still disputed the claims that were being made against him. But Virginia Giuffre is writing that, she says, after casting doubt on my credibility for so long, Prince Andrew's teams had even gone so far as to try and hire internet trolls to harass me. She talks about the Duke of York owing her a meaningful apology. She said, we knew that we'd never get a confession, but we were trying to get the next best thing, a general acknowledgement of what I'd been through. And this is only one of a number of allegations that will probably seep out over the next few days. Again, I think we've seen the palace try to get ahead of this story by coming out on Friday and effectively forcing Prince Andrew's hand to make him step away in this way. But there are still big swirling debates about whether he should be stripped of his title by Parliament, and whether or not he should continue to receive any sort of taxpayer money, how he funds his private security that's rumoured to cost about £3 million a year. There are still lots of other questions that are separate to the allegations about his own personal conduct.
Yes, and just to reiterate, he denies all the allegations against him. But the Telegraph points out that Prince Andrew was deemed a potential national security risk because of his close ties to alleged Chinese spies. It's worth remembering his job was to bring in business connections, wasn't it? I mean, that was literally the role he was trying to conduct.
And he carved the role out, and, you know, some people would have said that he opened certain doors that weren't able to be opened by, you know, standard diplomacy. But then there are other stories that emerge, not just this sort of closeness to China and the fact that he had this programme pitch at the palace that he also tried to take to China, but, you know, really ostentatious expenses instead of saying embassies. That was a story that was there here today, I believe, from the Times, perhaps. And so, you know, it's funny that people are all constantly coming out of the woodwork to share other Prince Andrew stories about his behaviour. And so even if it's unfair, even if, you know, he's basically, there's going to be a campaign against him from everybody who's got a terrible Prince Andrew story, it doesn't prevent the criticism basically seeping into the monarchy, and the king is perhaps going to have to act, as I say.
And presumably quite a lot of sympathy for the king, you know, undergoing cancer treatment, as we know, and, you know, facing this very difficult time. Shall we move on to another quick story before the break, which is this wonderful news about a tiny, tiny bionic chip which can actually allow blind people to read and see again?
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating and really heartwarming as well, because we're hearing about the case of Sheila Irvin, a 70-year-old Briton who says that she loved reading before she went blind and has now learnt to read again thanks to this invention. It's a trial of, I think, about 38 patients, 5 of which were treated at Moorfields Eye Hospital in central London. And so, you know, very early stages, but this was about a condition that affects, I think, 600,000 people in the UK each year. It causes them essentially to sort of progressively lose their vision. And so it will give real hope to those people that they will be able to see again.
It's utterly amazing, and it's a great British success story of technology. The Moorfields Eye Hospital is giving people a new lease of life. I think it's absolutely incredible. And can you believe it's a chip that's half the width of a hair, a single hair? I mean, this is, if my dear old mother was still alive, this is the kind of story that she'd read and be very disappointed that I haven't done anything as meaningful with my life.
Still time, I think. Salma, Aubrey, stay there, if you don't mind. Lots more still to come in the next part of our programme, including the fallout from Amazon's global glitch, which crashed websites and apps. You may well know about that. The Metro has that coverage, as you can see, the worldwide wobble, as they call it back in the night.
Liberation Day.
By popular demand, here we are.
Donald Trump. It is quite the story. Wherever it goes, on Trump 100, we go with it.
Can you tell us who you're looking for?
Unbelievable we've come to this.
Are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal?
Not like you said it.
From the UK.
Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
It was 10 feet from him, and all of a sudden the shot's rang out.
People impacted.
I'll tell you on another day on the podcast what that was all about.
Join us wherever you get your podcast.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
All alcohol products, not just wine, will have labels warning of liver disease and the link to fatal cancers.
He's crazy.
It's an industry worth around €14 billion a year. That's why Italy sees this Irish plan as such a threat. It's always instructive and occasionally entertaining to hear what Donald Trump has to say on the issue of Brexit.
She's got her own way of doing it, that's okay.
The job takes me to every corner of this island.
The rioting stemmed from a horrific daytime stabbing attack at a primary school in the city centre.
The scale of the rioting and the destruction it caused is pretty much unprecedented here in Dublin. Jerry, any comment on the judge's decisions? Do you feel vindicated, Jerry? This is the end, the somewhat chaotic end, of a 52-day trial.
Micheál Martin could be set to head back to government with the Taoiseach Simon Harris.
Are you confident that you can now return as Taoiseach?
I'm cautiously optimistic and excited.
A mystery press conference hastily called. Leo Varadkar strode out and didn't disappoint.
I am resigning as President and Leader of Fine Gael effective today.
The people here sometimes feel they're somewhat neglected by the Irish government, to the extent that this place is sometimes known as the Forgotten County.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks, but none have ever been found.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland. Sky News, get the full story first.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls. and big-picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane. I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me once again, Aubrey, Allegretti and Salma Shah. Welcome back to both of you. Salma, Metro, nice take from them. Something went wrong, the worldwide wobble, which was had a huge impact, did it not, this Amazon Web Services?
So if you couldn't get onto a banking app today, if you couldn't get on and play your favourite, computer game, it is probably because there has been an issue with the Amazon Web Service servers. Now, it's not clear yet, and they certainly haven't said that it was a cyber attack, but it's not clear yet what happened. It was just an outage, and there's lots of speculation going around about whether it was a, DNS fault. Don't ask me what that acronym means, but yes, there's all kind of like computer technological chatter.
No, I didn't. Is it the data network? System.
Suggestions on the postcards.
The network,
anyway, it's like the phone directory for the whole shebang.
It's the phone directory for the whole shebang, exactly that. But there are some issues. But what it does expose is that, yes, something's gone wrong. Yes, it's a mild inconvenience for most people in relation to the sorts of technology that they can't access. But it does actually focus attention on how are these servers being managed and maintained, and also questions around data sovereignty, which is where does your data actually sit? Does it cross national borders? Is it something that we should be worried about? And is it something that we should be asking more questions about?
Yeah, we feel utterly exposed, realising that so few companies are in charge of all of this, and this one deals with about a third of everything we might click on. I mean, it really is quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I mean, these incidents have happened repeatedly and with almost increasing frequency. And from all of the experts that I think have sort of talked about this today, they're not necessarily saying that there's some huge glaring fault or something that needs to be fixed, but it is demonstrative of how lots of organisations have sort of put all of their eggs in a single basket, how vulnerable they are if a system goes down, albeit temporarily, and the sort of lack of resilience of being able to rely on multiple providers and servers to ensure that actually these things don't sort of fall down, albeit it might be a blip, but it's still quite inconvenient. The Times couldn't send its newsletters this morning. That's how bad it was.
Bad. That's bad, you're right. So let's go to the Daily Telegraph. I don't know if we've got this cropped or the full page. If you'd seen the front page, I'd expecting Alison Pearson to write in celebration of this. But anyway, Britain's biggest police force, the Met, has announced it will no longer investigate non-crime hate incidents, which have come under a real scrutiny, have they not? So, what are they? And is this a good thing that they're no longer going to be investigated by police, even though they're going to log them, I think, aren't they?
Yes. So this follows a story about a comedy writer, Graham Linehan, who was arrested under this non-crime hate incident, non-crime. And he was, it's quite hard to say, it's not a crime, but he was arrested.
Yeah.
And it was around gender-critical tweets that he had sent. Now, there is a question around free speech and whether the police should be engaging with, content that is online, whether it offends or upsets people. There is a different scenario around whether you are inciting violence. So there are other sort of incidents that we've seen, so in relation to riots, where people have sent social media posts that have been incitement to violence, where people have been arrested, charged and imprisoned, given custodial sentences. And this has become a real issue, particularly on the right, about who is responsible for free speech, how we police free speech, and what should be allowed. And it's that really difficult conversation that we all need to have, but we can't actually draw firm lines in policy around what that needs to look like. So the police are now not going to carry on the investigations here, but they are going to be recording these incidents in order to get a sense of where they go.
Yeah. Very quickly, we've got a minute left. Do you want to move on to the next one, or do you want to have a quick sentence on that one?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I think the free speech route is actually kind of deeply political, not least because we know that it's really salient to senior US politicians. J.D. Vance brought it up in front of Keir Starmer. The US State Department has raised concerns about free speech in the UK. And then, of course, Downing Street over the last few weeks and months has been asked about stories like this and been very careful to sort of tiptoe around them and not give any credence to the fact that, or sort of invite the police to carry on arresting people under these kind of offences, if you like. So I think we've sort of been moving this way for a while. And we were talking before about how, you know, the police seem to be sort of acquiescing almost to the political pressure that's been building almost in reaction to the arrest of Graham Linehan at Heathrow Airport over his tweets.
And let's just show the Express, which we were going to come to, and the Express saying that these are the brave NHS nurses fighting a historic battle for female-only spaces. We'll perhaps come on to that a bit later on. Both of you, thank you. Top stories are next.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.